Book 3, How Love Grows, the Path to Spiritual Perfection. Welcome back to this series on St. Francis de Sales' treatise on the love of God. In this episode, we will be exploring Book 3, The Progress and Perfection of Love. This part of the treatise teaches us how divine love, once planted in our souls, should grow and develop until it reaches its highest fulfillment in union with God. St. Francis de Sales beautifully shows how love is a dynamic force, always moving and striving for greater perfection. Let's dive into the key teachings of Book 3 and see how St. Francis guides us on this journey of spiritual growth. The call to grow in love. St. Francis de Sales begins by reminding us that every human soul has the capacity to grow in divine love. We are not called to remain stagnant, but to continually increase in love throughout our lives. He uses the example of the crocodile, which grows continuously throughout its lifetime. Similarly, we are called to grow in love and virtue, constantly moving toward greater union with God. The love of God within us is not something static. It is dynamic and alive, always pushing us forward on our spiritual journey. St. Francis stresses that the journey toward perfect love is an ongoing process. We cannot reach a point where we say, I have loved enough. Rather, divine love calls us to continue advancing. To remain still is to go backward. He warns us against complacency, using the analogy of a river that must keep flowing. Just as a river must keep moving to avoid becoming stagnant, our souls must continually strive for greater love and holiness. Each day is an opportunity to grow in love, and St. Francis encourages us to embrace this challenge with joy and perseverance. Small acts, great love. One of the most encouraging teachings of Book 3 is that we do not need to perform great or heroic acts to grow in love. St. Francis reminds us that even the smallest acts of charity, when done with love, are pleasing to God and help us grow in grace. He compares these small acts to the humble offering of the Old Testament, such as a handful of flour or a few drops of oil, which were still acceptable sacrifices in the eyes of God. Similarly, when we perform small acts of kindness, such as giving a cup of water to someone in need, we are offering God a gift of love that contributes to the growth of divine charity in our souls. St. Francis de Sales reassures us that growing in love is not an overwhelming task because God provides us with countless opportunities to love Him and our neighbor in our daily life. Every moment, every encounter is an invitation to love. Whether it is through prayer, acts of kindness, or simply offering our daily struggles to God, we can always grow in love. This should give us great hope, as it shows that we do not need to wait for extraordinary circumstances to grow in holiness. God meets us where we are and gives us the grace to grow in love through even the smallest actions. God's grace and our cooperation. St. Francis de Sales emphasizes that while we are called to grow in love, we cannot do this on our own. Growth in divine love is primarily the work of God's grace in our souls. Just as a plant needs sunlight and water to grow, our souls need the grace of God to increase in love. St. Francis explains that God's grace works in us continuously, helping us to love more deeply and perfectly. However, he also reminds us that we must cooperate with this grace. We must be open and willing to respond to God's promptings, just as a plant must open itself to receive the sunlight. The relationship between God's grace and our free will is a key theme in this chapter. While God initiates the work of love in our souls, we are responsible for cooperating with grace. St. Francis de Sales uses the image of walking while being carried. While the soul is supported by God's grace, it must still make the effort to walk toward Him. This cooperation with grace involves our daily choices, our perseverance in prayer, and our commitment to living virtuous lives. It is through this collaboration between divine grace and human effort that we grow in love and move closer to God. Perseverance in love. Perseverance is a central theme in Book 3. St. Francis teaches that it is not enough to begin the journey of love. We must persevere in it until the end. Just as a mother helps her child take its first steps and continues to support it as it learns to walk, so too does God support us as we grow in love. Perseverance in love is not something we can achieve by ourselves. It is a gift from God, but it also requires our active cooperation. St. Francis urges us to pray for the grace of perseverance and to use the means God gives us, such as the sacraments, prayer, and good works, to remain steadfast in our love. St. Francis de Sales highlights the importance of remaining faithful during times of trial and temptation. He reassures us that God does not abandon us in our struggles. Rather, He is always present, helping us to persevere. Just as a tree's roots grow deeper during a storm, so too does our love for God grow stronger when we face challenges. St. Francis de Sales encourages us to see these difficulties as opportunities to deepen our love and trust in God. Through perseverance, we grow in love and move closer to the perfection that God desires for us. The gift of dying in charity. St. Francis de Sales speaks about the great blessing of dying in a state of divine charity. He explains that when a soul has grown in love throughout its life, it is prepared to meet God at the moment of death. Dying in charity is a special grace that crowns all the efforts and growth of a lifetime. It is the ultimate goal of the Christian life to be united with God in perfect love. St. Francis de Sales describes this as a joyful moment where the soul recognizes all the graces it has received and is finally united with the one it has loved. This teaching reminds us of the importance of living each day in such a way that we are always ready to meet God. St. Francis encourages us to remain hopeful, knowing that those who persevere in love will be rewarded with eternal happiness. The gift of dying in charity is not something we can control. but we can prepare for it by living in a state of grace and growing in love each day. St. Francis de Sales encourages us to trust in God's mercy and to remain faithful to our calling to love, knowing that God will be with us at the moment of death, leading us into His eternal embrace. The perfect union of love with God. Finally, St. Francis de Sales explains that while we can grow in love throughout our lives, perfect union with God will only be achieved in heaven. He compares the soul's desire for God to a river flowing toward the sea. Our love for God is always moving toward its ultimate goal, which is eternal union with Him. While we can experience moments of deep consolation and intimacy with God in this life, the fullness of this union will only be realized in heaven. This teaching fills us with hope, reminding us that our journey of love is not in vain. It is leading us to the eternal joy of being united with God forever. In conclusion, Book 3 of Treatise on the Love of God offers us a roadmap for growing in love. It teaches us that growth in love is a continuous process that requires our cooperation with God's grace. Through small acts of charity, perseverance in trials, and reliance on God's help, we can deepen our love for Him and move closer to the perfect union that awaits us in heaven. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope this reflection on Book 3 inspires you to continue growing in love day by day. God bless you. Love Jesus.
Step by step, we climb so high. In your love, oh Lord, we try. Each day brings a chance to grow. In your grace, let our hearts glow. No time to rest, no time to wait. For love, oh God, is never late. You lift us up when we fall low. In mercy's light will always show. Growing in love, day by day. In your hands, Lord, we will stay. By your grace we move ahead. Your love our guide, our daily bread. Through every trial in every way, we're growing in love day by day. Even the smallest, simplest deed fills our hearts with all we need. In a glass of water, bread we share. We find your love, it's always there. You guide our steps, you hold us tight. Through every shadow, every light. Your grace, oh Lord, is all we need to grow in love, in thought and deed. Growing in love, day by day. In your hands, Lord, we will stay. By your grace we move ahead. Your love our guide, our daily bread. Through every trial in every way, we're growing in love day by day. When we're weak, you lift us high. Your hand, oh Lord, is always nigh. With tender care you help us rise. To reach the stars, to touch the skies. Holy perseverance, your gift so bright. Keeps our hearts firm in the fight. You lead us home through every test. To find in you our final rest. Oh Mary, full of grace and love. Your heart so pure, raised high above. Teach us to love as you have done. United always with your Son. Growing in love, day by day. In your hands, Lord, we will stay. By your grace we move ahead. Your love our guide, our daily bread. Through every trial in every way, we're growing in love day by day. peace. In love's embrace, our hearts increase. We'll walk with you through joy and pain, growing in love forever reign. Growing in love, day by day, in your hands, Lord, we will stay. By your grace we move ahead. Your love our guide, our daily bread. Through every trial in every way, we're growing in love day by day. Oh Lord, in you we find our peace. In love's embrace, our hearts increase. We'll walk with you through joy and pain, growing in love forever reign.